Hey everybody, Starfish here. And we had a little bonus episode that we wanted to share with you guys. We got some feedback. We get feedback from our listeners often through comments or reviews, ratings, social media. And one of the comments that we got recently, we just wanted to talk about and address because we think that it's probably something that, I don't know, it's just a misunderstanding. It's a little bit of a, you know, we just want to talk to everybody about it. So let me just first read the comment and then we'll talk about it. So the comment is, first of all, we got a 1 star. Oh. And the title is Meh.
Okay.
Meh. So it's from Apple Podcasts. This is somebody in Australia. Abby Caro is her name. I think it's a female. So many inaccuracies. I know they aren't private investigators or anything, but half of the stuff they are saying can just be read in the news, so why get them so wrong? So I would just like to start off by saying thank you for leaving a review. Thank you for listening too. And we have a lot of listeners out of Australia because we've done a lot of Australia stories. I think she was probably listening to Melissa Caddick, the financier who stole, like, I don't even know how much at this point. I don't remember the millions of dollars she stole from people and then disappeared. So it's a story that continues on because she still has not been found. So there's a little update almost a year later. But so the story is probably, I don't know, 6 months, old at this point. And really, the point of the podcast is not to we're not the news, we're just collecting articles as they were at the time. So, we sort of talked about what our process was to gather the information. I just want to share with you a little bit of our process and then we can just sort of free chat about it. So first of all, we do a lot of fact checking on our data. We want to make sure that we're getting the information right. And we have a lot of processes to have 2 people look at it, So we actually have somebody working for us. His name is Joe. He's awesome. And he does a lot of the finding of the data, of the information. And then, Mary Contrary reads over it, checks it. And both of us engage in looking for it and reading over it and vetting it a little bit before we actually go with the story because we want to make sure it's from a reliable place. So anyway, he said this is what he does. He opens the link that we share with him. So we find the story, we find a link of a story and we share. It might be from, who knows, USA Today or something, People. It's the original source isn't necessarily the most, reliable. And then, we do he does like a little Google search of all of the key phrases. This is what we would do too. You just search for it. You just see what's out there. And then you kind of, he said he selects about 5 references from the results page, opens each in a new tab. Then he goes through all the references to catch reported facts. Then he searches the key phrase on YouTube to find more about the story, watch some videos about it, and then he combines all the info gathered into a real talk story. So I think, he said, is there anything missing? First of all, I think it would be nice if we knew exactly what inaccuracies she was referring to. So, if you leave us feedback, we love it. It's great. I've had a lot of people tell me specifically what's wrong, and then we can talk more about it. But this one was kind of hard. It was just so many inaccuracies. Well, we aren't sure exactly what was inaccurate, but we feel like our process is pretty good. And it's not perfect. And we're not private. We're just friends who want to chat about these crazy scams. We're not even journalists or anything. We don't have any credentials to do this. Really, we're just, and honestly, you'll find 2 articles that report, let's just say a dollar amount, let's say 50 million or 20 million or something like that. They have different reports because they're getting their information from different sources too. They might be getting them from court documents or another news source or directly from the people who had it happen to them. I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can get this information, but, I think that part is important for our listeners to know that we do our very best to get as much information as we can, but, it's hard to get facts right. I don't know if any of you are true crime people, but there's a million different ways to interpret, like, tons of murders out there go unsolved because all the facts and details are just very difficult to pin down. So that's what I wanted to say about it. What,
this is just like, anything. And honestly, the point of a podcast, for all of you out there that listen to a lot of them, most of the time, podcast stories are things that are already out there, and all that podcasters are doing is we're just taking those stories and, adding a personal spin on it, because, both me and Starfish, we have a vast background of like a lot of different stuff. We both have been in business before. We both work in like higher up industries. And so we have a lot of like life experience here, and I have a lot of financial experience. So, when we talk about these stories, we're just trying to gather as much information as we can out there to try to get, the most accurate, truthful, parts of this that we can. And sometimes we do miss stuff. We are human beings, and even on, if you turn on the news, I'm sure there's a ton of inaccuracies that you would see on a newscaster report for certain stories as well. We just don't always get it right, unfortunately. And that's just across the board, I think, in all different, news industries. So, we're just friends talking, like Starfish said, and we're just trying to, make people aware of some of the things that, people are doing to people. Like our job is to try to prevent you from falling for a scam, or to be more cautious about where you're putting your money, because we do care about people, and we don't want, I've been scammed, Starfish has been scammed. Everyone's pretty much been scammed. If you're alive, you get scammed somehow at some point in your life, It just happens, unfortunately. And unfortunately, with these stories, it's like some people get it worse than others. And, all we can do is talk about it and try to educate people about things and try to, have our own unique spin. Like, sometimes I'll give little bits of financial advice here and there, but honestly, it's just the two of us trying to get stories together to talk about that are interesting. And if, some people don't have time to watch the news every day. I don't like watching the news personally. So it's just, it's just fun little stuff to talk about. If we put a smile on people's face, I'm happy with that. And, that's really what we're about on this podcast. We're just trying to, hopefully help people to be more cautious when you're trusting someone with your hard-earned cash. So.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Yeah. And we're curating these stories because of all the different ways in which people can scam you is pretty interesting. But also because, there's Mary Contrary. She notices all these patterns with a lot of these scammers. And so we're hoping that you can see some of the patterns that we see. I think one pattern we've definitely picked up on is don't invest your money with your friends and family. That was something I learned from Lisa Caddick because, you trust them implicitly and you really shouldn't with your money. You never know what they're going to do with it. We just had an episode about a nun who stole money. So you never know. It could be anybody. Just because they have an outward appearance of being in a position of authority or trust does not mean that they are trustworthy. So I think, the things that we learn, we like to share with you guys. And, it's not going to be for everybody. But if there's any advice that you guys want to give us, any specific details that we can work with, I think, the one thing that's difficult about this type of review is that I don't know what to do with it. Saying that we're just being inaccurate is not helpful because I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Maybe we can address some of the facts. Maybe we can address other things that are incorrect. And again, the goal isn't necessarily to be a perfect report of exactly what happened. The dollar amounts I notice sometimes vary, depending on which story you're reading. And you kind of wonder, why does that vary? Is it based on they get the dollar amount from this or that source? And so just kind of addressing that again, it is frustrating because you want to know how much did they steal? How much were they swindled for? But really, the important part is that they did it, how they did it, how did they scam people, and what kinds of things, if you're being scammed, can you watch out for? Like, I just had a conversation with a friend who said she had been scammed, and as I'm listening to her, I'm shaking my head saying, you're never going to get this money back. I know it. Just the way that our laws are designed. If you willingly give your money to somebody, you shouldn't do that. Basically, I mean, it's very difficult to get your money back. The only time they can ever really do it is if they have specific laws on the books, if they broke a very specific type of law. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's not that many instances where people get the restitution, get the money back. Like, take Melissa Caddick. She spent it all. So they're going to take, she swindled, I think it was $23 million. She's only going to have to pay back $6 million. So they're just going to sell off all her property that she has. And that's all they get back. That's it. You're done. I'm sorry. There's no recourse for you. So we want to protect you from that.
Yeah.
So sometimes the details aren't as necessarily important, as much as it's sort of this collection of knowledge that we're gathering for you guys about how to avoid scams, you know, because it's embarrassing to be scammed.
Yeah, it's like people make fun of people that get scammed all the time, unfortunately, but it sucks, you know, and I've been totally scammed, you know, and like you're saying, Starfish, I mean, the Seller's Playbook scam, like, we only saw like $5,000 back from the 30 that they stole from everybody. So just think about that, you know, like,
it's terrible.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. Really careful. Yeah. So if they can't even find the person sometimes who did it, or there's just so many ways that they can obviously, you've seen it. You know, if you've listened to even a handful of our episodes, you know that that it's so easy for them to get out of paying you back. So, well, we appreciate the feedback, and we just wanted to address it and talk to people. And, you know, we get lots of feedback, so we'll probably do this again where we just share our thoughts about the feedback, and hopefully we can get some feedback that's a little more specific so we can address it. Also, we've gotten some great feedback from some people saying that they love it and they love listening to us. So we love you too. And thank you for listening. And
I was just going to say, I mean, I love our fans. I love that you guys love us. We love you too. And, you know, we're just here to hopefully help you out and put a smile on your face for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for listening. And we'll keep sharing these little bonus stories of ways in which we kind of run our process, and ways that we can make sure that we're, I love it when people give us information. They say, hey, have you ever heard of this podcast? And I think we talk a lot about this, about how we wish we could do a whole season sometimes. I mean, like the Love Has Won cult, that one could be a whole season in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Alex Jones, I could do a whole entire 10-year podcast on Alex Jones, you know. A lot of the election ones too, those are just still going in court, right? Like, there's a lot of these stories that we could do entire shows on, but the idea instead is just to give you a collection of stories, so you can see patterns. You know, patterns are more important than very specific details. So, yeah. Well, thanks again for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to Real Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We look forward to having you on our next one.